Hello, I hope you all are okay. I'm going to start a series of videos of all speeches that I have created or written over last 30 years until the pandemic, and another 3 between 30 and 33 years. The problem is that when I was building my house, I kept them in a small garden shed where I left my things while I was building. And then the rain destroyed them a little bit, and I was able to save from some of them only. They are written on, look, I'm going to show you all of them that I got now. And more. I got still some other more. I'm going to show you the rain, what made in every page. Look, in every page may seem to be old. For example, it is titled Dissidents. To abandon Jehovah is the way to the death and destruction. I can show you maybe. They were written on typewriter. I had 3 or 4 Olivettis because then when I didn't have printers and computers like we have today, only some computers like Amstrad 128 or Commodore 64 that did not have operating systems like Windows, but we could only program them in BASIC and COBOL program language. Here I show you, some of this speech that I have rescued from the waters. Alright, this one is called the messengers from heaven. Okay, let's start. Let's go. We must keep a clean mind, free from bad thoughts, in order to love Jehovah correctly. It is Jehovah God Himself who gives us the example to imitate. He always shows that He wants the best for us and only think of doing us good. As we were able to verify last Sunday in a speech entitled, Is God Interested in You? Okay. We see that Jehovah has a clean and pure mind and sweet thoughts and crystalline like the waters of the springs of the high mountains. In this week reading, we are going to see why we should imitate Jehovah by keeping a clean mind and why we should avoid these bad thoughts. Please join me to read the second book of Samuel, chapter 10, verse 114. Second book of Samuel. I got here my English Bible. Okay, Holy Scriptures. Okay, second book of Samuel, chapter 10, verse 114. He said, Later the king of Ammonites died, and his son Hanun became king in his place. At that David said, I will show loyal love toward Hanun, the son of Nahash, as his father showed loyal love toward me. So David sent his servants to offer him comfort over the loss of his father. But when David's servants came into the land of the Ammonites, the prince of the Ammonites said to Hanun their lord, Do you think that David is honoring your father by sending comforters to you? Is it not to search through the city and to spy it out and to overthrow it that David has sent his servants to you? So Hanun took the servants of David and shaved off half their beards and cut their garments in half and their buttocks and sent them away. When David was told, he at once sent men to meet them, because the men had been deeply humiliated. And the king told them, "Stay in Jericho until your beards grow back and then return." In time the Ammonites saw that they had become a stench to David. So the Ammonites sent and hired Syrians of Beth-rehob and Syrians of Thobath, 20,000 foot soldiers, and the king of Maacah with 1,000 men, and from his top 12,000 men. When David heard about it, he sent Joab and the entire army, including his mightiest warriors. And the Ammonites went out and drew up in the battle formation at the entrance of the city gate, while the Syrians of Thobath and Rehob, along with Istob and Maacah, were by themselves in the open field. When Joab saw that the battle charge were coming against him from the front and the rear, he chose some of the best troops in Israel and drew them up in battle formation to meet the Syrians. He put the rest of the men under the command of his brother Abishai, in order to draw them up in the battle formation to meet the Ammonites. Then he said, if the Syrians become too strong for me, then you must come to my rescue. But if the Ammonites become too strong for you, I will come to your rescue. We must be strong and courageous for our people and for the cities of our God, and Jehovah will do what is good in his eyes. Then Joab and his men advanced to meet the Syrians in the battle, and they fled from before him. When the Ammonites saw that the Syrians had fled, they fled from the Abishai and went into the city. After that, Joab returned from the Ammonites and come to Jerusalem. Okay, thank you. Here we clearly see that the prince of Ammon, due to their thoughts and unjustified suspicious mind, accused David's messenger of being spies and greatly humiliated them by cutting off the beards and clothes, thus making them sin against God, since the law said, "You must not destroy the end of your beard," and it was Jehovah himself who put this law, because among the non-Israelites or inhabitants of the towns that lived around Israel, the practice of cutting the hairs and beard in certain ways had arisen. We can read it in Jeremiah 9:26 and chapter 25 verse 23 too. In worship to their God. They did it in worship to their God. Leviticus 19:27. This was similar to how today some young people get shaved beards and cuts, even with letters and geometric figures and colors, different colors, the hair. From this, we can learn that when dealing with people in the neighborhood, when we dealing with people in the neighborhood, or relatives or friends, or brothers and sisters in the meetings in the congregation, in our Christian meetings. It's better to avoid these evil thoughts, suspicious, because it can lead us to accuse them unjustly, and then we might make them sin against God. It is better to trust others and consider them innocent rather than guilty. It's better to be disappointed from time to time than to be unduly suspicious. It's better to take into account their good points than to highlight their faults. Even marriage will be happier if they set out to think well of each other. Also, removing the hair and beard was used to represent imminent destruction in ancient times, because these things were considered precious possessions among the ancient people of the East, from the East. For example, the Hebrews or Israelites considered the beard as a symbol or evidence of manly dignity. From this, it can be understood why David had to take this action as a death threat. The Ammonites paid for that weakness when they were defeated. Well, we don't know very well because they fled. Perhaps Jehovah instilled fear in them. They become a slave of the Israelites. Look what happened. Instead, because of his open conduct of loyalty, open behavior of loyalty and trust in Jehovah, David, the king of Israel, continually obtained Jehovah's blessing by being victorious in all wars and battles. We must imitate Jehovah and have a clean mind, because otherwise we will be imitating Satan the devil. Let us remember or never forget that he was the one who first developed these evil thoughts of suspicion, accusing others of selfish motives, doing it without justification. We must imitate Jehovah and have a clean mind, because otherwise we will be very grown like the devil. Today we too will be blessed by Jehovah as David if we keep our mind clean, free from these bad thoughts, and thus avoid violating the main commandment to love Jehovah with all our mind, as recorded in Luke 10:27. As we have seen, Satan, he kept these selfish thoughts by not keeping a clean mind, because he had improper thoughts about God and questioned the motives of God's servants, that their suspicions are well founded, and this is another good reason not to unduly suspect others, because there is always the risk of trying to prove that one's suspicions are well founded, and thus become an adversary of others. Revelation 12, we must remember the battle that made Satan God's enemy. There we see that Satan became an enemy, and there was a war, and he had to be thrown from heaven to earth. That is why he is the fallen angel. I would rather call him the cursed angel. But why is this assignment titled the messenger from heaven? Because just like the messenger that King David sent, Jesus was also sent by Jehovah to earth, and look at how he was treated. Look at how they treated him when they unduly suspect him. Then clean mind. Thank you, and in the next video another new speech. Have a nice and lovely week to all boys and girls. Thank you very much.